Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 197 of the Junkies Podcast. Today's guest is Frank Ledbetter, former United States Marine, metal artist, and contestant on Season 1 of Metal Shop Masters, now streaming on Netflix. In this episode, Frank and I talk about his journey from working maintenance at a factory to running his own business doing code work, and then leaving all that behind to build metal sculptures. We're going to get right into it after a quick word from the supporters of the show. Today's episode of the Junkies Podcast is brought to you by Rockmount Research and Alloys. As if they didn't have enough cool products in their selection of filler metals and abrasives, they just released 2 more awesome products to help you get the job done right the first time, every time. First up is a brand new electrode. The all-new Polaris 18 meets and exceeds the AWS A5.1 specifications as an extra low hydrogen electrode with smooth running arc characteristics. And it's super easy to restrike. And it boasts an 82,000 pounds per square inch tensile strength with 37% elongation. The Polaris 18 is a great fabrication rod and is ideal for the repair and joining of construction-grade steel, or for fabrication and repair of angle iron, channel iron, I-beams, H-beams, pipe, cold-rolled steel, mild steel, low alloys, and hot-rolled steel. They also just released the new PSP, the Prep, Shine, and Polish Interleaved Flap Disc, which comes with a flexible abrasive material with surface conditioning flaps to create a time-saving disc that grinds and finishes in a single step. It's available in a 60 grit coarse finish and has a 5/8 11 nut for attaching straight to the arbor of your grinder. This wheel is ideal for stainless steel, aluminum, and other soft metals. Now you can go from weld to paint with one wheel. Now there's no need to start off with a hard rock, just to switch to a flap wheel and then switch over to a polishing wheel. This is an all-in-one wheel that'll take you right from welding to painting in one step. This is just one more way Rockmount is helping you get the job done right the first time, every time. Check them out today at rockmountwelding.com. We're also brought to you by Everlast Welders, the only machines I'm currently running in my home shop. I just picked up a few more side jobs and have been working through them with my 255 EXT, and I love this thing. The arc start is great, arc stability is amazing, and the overall settings are super simple to set up. And when I'm talking about arc initiation and arc stability, that's a big thing for the type of work that I've been doing lately. I'm doing a lot of 316L, it's about 40 thousandths of an inch thick, and I'm also welding some 1/8 inch diameter stainless rods to it. So having good arc stability and being able to run at 30 amps consistently has been crucial for all these jobs. Hop on over to everlastwelders.com today to find out what's right for you. One thing I've got my eye on lately is the new Storm 215 IC, which is a stick, MIG, and plasma cutter all on one unit, priced at $13.99. I definitely need to get a plasma fired up because I have some projects my son and I are going to be working on once we both get some time off from school. And remember, if you buy any machine from Everlast that comes with a stock foot pedal, make sure to use code word ARCJunkies in the comment section to get that free Nova foot pedal and TIG torch upgrade. It's only available at everlastwelders.com. Everlast Welders. Weld mean, weld green. We're also brought to you by my good friends over at Outlaw Leather USA, makers of the finest custom welding hoods around. Check them out today at outlawleatherusa.com, and right now you can save 15% off all their custom leather goods when you use ARC Junkies in the discount box at checkout. Whether that's a new hood, an arm brace, a knee pad, rod pouch, bolt bag, or anything else that's custom leather, you can save 15%. And be sure to give them a follow on Instagram at Outlaw Leather USA. All right, you know what time it is. Fire up your machines, drop your hood, and turn me up 5.
You're listening to the Arc Junkies Podcast. Helping you make every weld better than your last with each episode. And now your host, Jason Becker.
Frank, what's going on, man? How you been?
I've been good, Jason. I have nothing to complain about.
Right? You guys got pretty decent weather up there. You're in Mobile, Alabama, right?
Mobile, Alabama. Well, actually, I live in Theodore, which is in Mobile County.
Okay.
Down toward Dauphin Island. But the weather's great today. Finally cooled down a little bit.
Right. That's
It was a hot summer, man. It was a very, very hot summer.
It's been brutal down here in Florida, but it's finally starting to like cool down. Like today it hit 72 degrees and I was like just in heaven.
Yeah, I tell you, this summer I had a couple of big projects I did this summer. I worked on a piece with another artist and then got into that horse and that was July and August. Well, end of June, July and August, which is the hottest months.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a really, really warm summer.
Okay. Yeah, we went through about 2 years ago. I went through Mobile, Alabama for actually, I think I was in Mobile a lot longer than I wanted to be. And you guys got like a pretty weird policy. Like at 2 o'clock on a Saturday, everything shuts down until Monday morning, which I thought that was kind of weird. Like they roll up the sidewalks, man. Like business is closed. I was rolling through, we built a grill, a Santa Maria grill for a guy called Sam, the cooking guy out in San Diego, California. And so we drove through, and like right as soon as we left Florida, you go under on I-10, you go under this bridge, and then right on the other side of that, you're in Mobile, Alabama.
Right.
And we caught a flat tire right there. And so I was like, okay, no problem. We'll switch out the flat. And so the dude, Man Cub, Mike, back at the shop, he packed the trailer up, and we told him, make sure you pack a spare. Well, he got the spare correct, right? So the tire and everything, it was exactly, the size, diameter, everything that it needed to be. But the rim that he got it on was a 6-lug pattern, and the trailer that we were hauling was a 5-lug pattern. And so because the amount of weight in the trailer and all this stuff, we ended up having to go to we went to 5 different tire shops. So we went to we started off, because everybody sells trailer tires. So we started off over at Northern Tool and Equipment. They didn't have one. Went over to Walmart, nothing there. Pep Boys were we're running out of options. It's 1 o'clock. And like I said, everything shuts down at 2 o'clock. So we got an hour left before we're stranded in Mobile. And the dude over at Pep Boys, he's like, oh, you got to go down to Fossax. And I was like, okay, cool, no problem. So I get in the truck, and, I'm talking to Siri on my iPhone. And I was like, hey, Siri, I need directions to Fossax. And then she, no joke, she comes back. She's like, cannot find directions to ball sacks. And I was like, no. And me and the camera guy, we're laughing hysterically. We're like, no, not ball sacks, Fossax. So we finally we finally find this place, Fossax. We get in there, and he's like, yeah, man, you're screwed. I don't have the size rim you're needing, and I can't switch out the good tire on the bad rim with the good tire on the rim that you don't need with the bad rim. I can't swap it over. There's too much damage to the rim that you already have. So we're like, crap. We ended up over at West Marine, and I think they had 3 tires in stock. So we bought all 3 of them, and it's $250 at this time. As soon as we walk in the door, they're making the announcement, hey, everybody, we're shutting down in 10 minutes. Take your final purchases to the front. So we finally pick up these 3 tires, get back, swap them out, and it worked out perfect because it got us to Louisiana, where the other tire on the other side of the trailer was so bald you can see the damn air in it. So luckily we'd already had all the tires and everything we needed. But I just thought it was weird that you guys shut down everything at 2 o'clock, which I think it's kind of cool because down here in Florida, everything's 24/7, and it's just wide open. Everybody's in a hurry, but you get somewhere like Kentucky, Tennessee, Mobile, everything's a little bit more laid back,
Yeah. Man, tires are pain. When I was doing art shows, traveling all over the country, dragging that trailer to art shows, man, it was. I had some miserable days with a flat tire on the side of the I-75 heading down to. So I did a lot of South Florida shows back in the day, because that's how, when I first got started, that's how I got in. Once I started doing a little art, I didn't know what to do with it. People were like, I'll do art shows, and so I spent my tour on the art show circuit.
Okay. So how was it what did you do before you got into artwork, like the metal sculpting and stuff?
Well, let me back up to, let's back up to high school, and then work our way to how I got here.
Okay.
If that's cool.
No,
well,
definitely.
So when I was in high school, I was just a little scrawny little thing, I probably weighed 125 pounds when I graduated from high school. But, I was a good little athlete, and I just a regular kid. And so I hated school, and I couldn't wait to get out of school. Didn't study, didn't try, did learn to read and write, which kind of served me well. But overall, I just didn't care about school. So when I graduated from high school, I'm like, oh man, what am I going to do now? But that was 71, and they were drafting, for Vietnam. And went over to a buddy of mine's house one morning, and I'm like, we were just talking. It's like, hey man, let's go down to the recruiter's office. So we get in a truck and head down to the recruiter's office downtown Mobile. Walked in there, Jason, that staff sergeant had us signed up in 30 minutes. We went home. We were on a bus the next morning to Jacksonville for our physical. And from there, you know what? Our next stop was Paris Island.
8 miles south of hell.
So we hit Paris Island at 2 o'clock in the morning, and our feet hit those little yellow footprints.
Yep.
And it was on, brother. It was on. But, you know, I wouldn't trade that experience for anything. My dad was in World War II, and my older brother was in the Marine Corps, and then I was in the Marine Corps. And then my two younger brothers didn't serve in the military. And you can always see there's a lot of difference between people that served and people that, you know, nothing against people that don't serve. That's not the thing. It's just, you learn a lot, man. I mean, Paris Island, that wake you up to a lot of things.
It'll wake you up damn quick.
Real quick. I mean, it was like, I couldn't believe, I mean, it was, I had nightmares, man, that I had to go back there, you know? And I'm like, I never wanted to get, if you had $1 million standing there when I graduated, when I left that place, you had $1 million and said, here's $1 million, turn around and go do it again. I don't know if anybody could mentally do that, you know?
Now,
it was so brutal.
When you went through, did you have the opportunity to talk to your dad or your older brother or anybody that went through and like say, hey, you know, what can I expect going through boot camp?
No, I never really had that conversation. You know, my brother was 9 years older than me, and Dad never really talked about World War II. Mm-hmm. You know, he was in the thick of things. He was an engineer. They actually built bridges. They were out in front of the troops, man. They're ahead of Patton crossing, you know, in Europe, and they'd blow up bridges, and the engineers would go in there and put these temporary bridges in and stuff, you know. So it was kind of cool. But he never really talked. He told me a few stories, you know, about it. He said they were in a Jeep one time. Him and a guy was in a Jeep, and they got lost. They was and the guy read the map wrong, and they had to go through a machine gun nest. This guy was on a hill with a machine gun, and then when they got through it, they found out they were going in the wrong direction. He said they had to turn around and go right back through it. You know, that was kind of one of the only stories he ever told me. Now my older brother, he was 9 years older than me, so we never really, before I went in, we never really discussed, you know, what it was like. You know? But it was, you know, like I said, I think if every kid could go to boot camp, we'd be a better place.
Oh yeah.
You know,
I had uncles and stuff that had went through, like I had one uncle, like he went through the Marine Corps probably right about the same time you did. And then, you know, I had another uncle, he went through, well, he's cousin, he was just kind of old. So I called him my uncle when I was a kid. But he went through the Navy. And then I had some people that, you know, had served in the Army in my family. And I kind of asked them, you know, like, what can I expect? What are some of the do's and don't do's? And one thing they told me is like, don't volunteer for shit. Like, you know, the senior drill instructor, he's going to be walking down that hallway and he's going to say, I need 3 recruits for this. You just stand there and look straight forward. Don't volunteer for nothing. And that's one of the things that I remember. But I mean, like, just going off their stories and how much how much harder they had it and the things that they went through. I think my boot camp, don't get me wrong, it was hard as hell. It was 13 weeks of hell.
Right.
But I think I had so much more locked in my brain, you know, because I watched freaking Full Metal Jacket on repeat, you know, for like 6 months before I went in. So like when I got in there, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
It was still like hell on earth. You know, and it was definitely a full contact sport, you know, while you're in there. They tell you, we can't put our hands on you, but we can correct you. And man, they will correct the shit out of you. And it does not feel pleasant.
No. But we were, when I was in, it was Full Metal Jacket on steroids.
Right.
You know, it was, well, like I said, it was just different time,
you
know, and it wasn't no political correctness or whatever you might say. I mean, went to the rifle range, I shot high on the rifle range. Well, if you shot, I don't know if it was that way when you were in there, but if whoever shot high on the rifle range in their platoon automatically made PFC out of boot camp, which is a big deal.
That is.
Getting a stripe out of boot camp. So I shot high on the range, you know, and we got back stateside, you know, for phase 3, and Oh, we was standing there, and Staff Sergeant, man, it's good to know. He's like 6'2", 240. You know, he's a heck of a man. So he calls me up. You know, I don't know if you go up, hit the little red board, sir. Private Ledbetter reporting his orders,
Yep.
sir. You know, and I walked in that little room. And you think you made PFC? And sir, probably was told so, sir. Boom! It hit me the first time. I wasn't expecting it. You know, hit me in the stomach, knocked me across the room. Man, I was right back up in front of him. He kept beating me. I thought this dude's gonna kill me. You know, and he hit me in the solar plex the last time, and then he said, "Get out of my sight," with a few choice words, obviously.
Right.
But that was a moment. You know, there was lots of moments. You know, but I think it. You know, like I said, it was a learning experience, and you know, people talk about motivation. People, you'll learn what motivation is.
Oh yeah, they'll motivate the shit out of you.
Oh yeah, they'll motivate you. You know, I mean, just run. You know, and I could have never ran without motivation. I couldn't have did all that.
Mm-hmm.
You know. They did motivate us, but like I said, I wouldn't trade that for anything. So you know, moving on past after I got out of the Marine Corps, I was kind of back where I was when I got out of high school. I didn't know anything, and didn't want to be in school. And had a 4-year degree paid for. You know, back then the GI Bill, you could go to college. You know, well, I didn't want to go to college. I hated school. I still hated school. So I didn't really use that, and I just kind of jobbed around. My dad was a metal guy. We had 6 of us kids, and he had a shop. Always had a shop by the house, and he always had welding equipment and stuff. But he didn't do art. He was just a metal. He actually worked for a company that did fabrication. So he kind of taught me how to weld. You know, when I was like 13 years old, I started welding with the old Lincoln plug-in, you know, old cracker box machine.
Right.
What I learned stick welding on. But so anyway, after I got out of the Marine Corps, jobbed around, then I got a job at an international paper company in maintenance, which was a really, really good job. And I hated it. It was just something I'm not going to give this paper mill my life. You know, I was always fascinated with business. You know, you ride by a place and you see a little business pop up, and then 6 months later they're adding on, and you know, it's kind of fascinating how business can grow. And I mean, this is America, and you know, you got a lot of opportunities here if you pursue them. Mm-hmm. So I saved up like $4,000, and I quit the paper mill, and everybody said I was crazy, and I started my own company in 1976, and I did metal fabrication, and I did that for 25 years, and then that's in 2001. You know, we had a son and a daughter, Blake and Laura, and that's when we lost Blake in an accident in 2001. He was 15, and that was a game changer for me. You know, after that happened, it was a lot of things that happened during that time. You know, after we lost Blake, we at the time we were going to this church, and every Sunday, this Sunday school class that we were in, every Sunday, this couple would ask, you know, would be asked for prayer for this little boy that needed a heart, you know. So every Sunday they would ask for this, you know, and that went on for a while. And the craziest thing was that little boy got my son's heart, because our son was a donor. So after the accident, it was a couple of days. He was on life support, and we had to let him go. But we decided, you know, obviously we wanted to be a donor. So, and when I found out that little boy that we'd been asking for prayer for a while got my son's heart, that was pretty another earth shattering and kind of I don't know. I don't push my beliefs on anybody. I think everybody has their own way of dealing with the God factor, I call it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I know how I feel about it, but I don't say you got to feel like I do, you know? So it was kind of okay, God, you know, and then the lady that got his pancreas and kidney she was dying, and she needed both pancreas and kidney. She got married a year later and dedicated her wedding to Blake, you know. So that was a really, really tough time, you know, in our life. And so I actually got out of the fab business at that time because I was just devastated. And I really, Jason, didn't think that I would find, you know, any happiness after that. And then that's how I discovered this artistic side that I didn't know I had. You know, I knew metal because I was in the business, and I just started piddling around with little things. And I'm like, wow, man, what do I do with this? People are like, oh man, you need to do art shows. I'm like, art shows? I didn't know anything about art shows. I'd been to a couple of art shows. So I got me a trailer and a tent and started dragging it around all over the country doing art shows. And by doing art shows, you know, there wasn't, it wasn't a lot of money in it, but it gave me, you know, it gave me a purpose, you know. I needed a purpose. So art really saved me, you know. And so people would come in and say, hey, could you do this? And they would kind of challenge me. And so I would take commissions, you know. I took a lot of commissions that I didn't realize I could even do, you know. And you get half the money up front and the other half when you're done. And it was a scary proposition. Like, okay, I just took these people's money.
Yeah.
I gotta do this now, you know. So that was, you know, that's kind of the just to give you a little background of how I got to kind of where I'm at now, you know. It was a process, and like I said, art did save me, and it fulfills me. Art fulfills me, you know, just to be able to create things every day.
Right.
Does that make sense? No,
it makes complete sense, man. I'm really sorry to hear about your son. I know they talked about it on the Netflix special, and like I've got a 9-year-old and 12-year-old, and I couldn't imagine, you know, as a parent, what that loss would actually do to me. And, you know, then to be able to see that, you know, his passing was able to help somebody else live their life. I mean, you've got to find some joy in that.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, there again, you know, if I had anything if there was something I could say, you know, on this podcast would be, you know, be a donor. You know, if you know, it's on my driver's license. You know, I don't think people really think about that. You know, it's like, hey, you know, you could save a life, and you know, you're out of here, man. You know, do something good.
Yeah.
And you know, because there's a lot of people waiting for organs and things, you know, and it's a good thing. I would encourage anybody to at least think about that, you know?
Yeah. I've got it listed on my driver's license. As soon as I was able to, you know, I listed it, you know, as to be an organ donor. So as you get your driver's license, that's one of the questions. It's like, damn, that's kind of heavy. I mean, I want to drive up to the store and take my girlfriend out on a ride. Like, I didn't think I had to, you know, get this in depth with thought of it. But I mean, yeah, like become an organ donor. Like I try to donate blood on a regular basis, because if I got something that somebody else can use, you know, why not pay that forward? You know, it's just part of being a good person. But so, I mean, that obviously helps you. I mean, did you use that as like a coping mechanism, as, you know, did you use the artwork as a coping mechanism, you know, for the loss?
Yeah, or you know, I mean, I was interested in a lot of things, you know, before we lost Blake, and you know, I found that after he died, I lost interest in everything, and I really didn't think that I didn't really think that I would ever be interested in anything, because I like to grow flowers. I like to have, you know, I like to do a lot of things, and then I found myself losing. You know, I didn't really want to do anything. You know, and people ask me all the time, you know, like, how do you get through it, you know? And I got to go back, you know, there again, I got to go back to my faith. I'm a faith-based person, and I believe that, you know, this is just my belief. I'm not telling, you know, I try to walk that line like you know, you do you, I do me. But for me to do me, I think God, I believe God is, there is a God, and I believe that he's got a plan, and that's just my belief. And that's what helped me get through it. It's like, okay, who am I to question? If God said to me, okay, Frank, I won't take your son. How about if I take Jason's son? You don't want to be in that position, So I kind of look at it like, okay, that got to be the judge, and that's the way I roll. And if somebody believes different than me, that doesn't bother me. That's their thing.
Yeah.
I think, to me, a lot of things, a lot about what's wrong today is we're all judging each other. Everybody's judging. I'm right, you're wrong.
Yeah.
And if we could all just take 2 steps back and say, wait a minute, you do you, I do me. As long as you're not trying to hurt me or, hurt my family or, physically hurt me or anything, I got no, you do you, you be you,
100%. And I couldn't agree with that more wholeheartedly, because like I see all the tension between like, you're either this or you're not. And it's like, why can't I take the stance to where I support you in your decision and you support me in my decision? Like,
exactly.
why can't we just meet in the middle and be like, I don't agree with what you're doing, and you may not agree with my position on it, but like, just respect my opinion. I can respect yours. We can both go on and live separate ways. And I've seen it so much with, especially politics. Like you've got,
oh God, don't get me started.
No, I definitely, I'm not going to go that route, but like politics and religion, it's like 2 things you don't talk about when you're drinking. But like now people, like all of a sudden, people that you grew up with and you're like friends with, and like all of a sudden they find out that, you're for or against something. And it's like, well, that's the dividing line. And it's like, okay, yeah, like screw everything else that we've been together. Screw all the work that we've done in the past. And, like this is the hill we're going to die on right here. It's like, why can't I just respect your position to do you, and you respect my position to do me, as long as it's not hurting anybody, like, and that's what makes things so great, is because there's a difference of opinion. If everybody acted the same and did the same thing and, did the same job and, had the same opinions, life would suck. You need that diversity in there to mix things up and keep things interesting, and like, just do good, respect other people, like treat other people the way that you want to be treated, whether you're a religious person or not. That's like the golden rule, and it has been forever. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you. And it's like, just treat people with respect. At the end of the day, just don't be an asshole. Just do good to others. Be a good person. Right. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry and straightforward.
It seems simple, and it just there's so much divisiveness nowadays. I don't get it. I'm a pacifist. I don't have a mean bone in my body. And I don't know, you ever think, what makes me like I am? I don't know. I mean, I'm who I am, I can't even squash a little bug. I pick it up and take it outside. I value life. I value any life, and I don't understand people that don't, people that are taking each other's lives, over silliness. And it's just, you can't throw up your hand and say, the world's a wreck, it's all going to hell, but, like I said, we just need to, we talked about it even on Metal Shop Masters, but there were some moments, they were edited out, but they weren't edited out. I'm sure they weren't edited out on purpose, because they had a lot of editing to do, but there was some moments there that were, we talked about that, about love, we need to love one another, that sounds corny, but it's like all the people that I was on the show with, I can just, like, if I talk to them, like if I'm talking to Lou or I'm talking to Ivan or Ray, or Leah, I'm like, I can say I love you, I mean, I feel something. I mean, that was a bonding moment, that was kind of an unusual moment for all of us, but to be thrown, it's like, when you were thrown together at Paris Island, you know, I mean, you boom, all of a sudden you're a group, you know.
And I think that's probably the common bond between you and I, and the way that we think about the outside world is just being able to accept other people, because when you get put into boot camp it doesn't matter that, that guy or gal standing next to you, well, not in boot camp, just Marines, it's just, it's segregated. It's all male.
Right.
Or all female on the other side of the island. But I think that's what it is. And that's why I don't understand, the problem that other people have with certain people. It's like when you're there to do a job as a team and I think everybody's, they paid the same buy-in. Everybody sacrificed the same thing to get where they are, when you're standing there on the yellow footprints. Everybody's made that same exact sacrifice. So it's an even playing field. Whether you're black, white, Hispanic, whatever, you're Arab, you're Buddhist, you're Christian, you're atheist, whatever. Everybody paid the same dues to get there. And you respect one another for paying that, for signing that blank check, up into, the value of your life.
Right.
And you serve with those people, and you're in a years after you get out of boot camp, you're in a fighting hole with them, and you're not looking at it and be like, oh, you're black, or you're a Democrat, or you're you're a Republican, or you're atheist. Or, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we always called it, we were all green. We were all green on the inside, just different shades of green.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's because you and I have like the same mentality and outlook on the world, is just be a good person, because it doesn't matter what that person to the left or the right of you, what their faith or their belief is. They're still a human being. Everybody was born different. And, diversity is freaking awesome. Because like I said, if everybody was the same, it'd just be boring.
Right.
And I just don't understand why certain people can't get that through their heads. It's like, just love one another.
Well, we've been killing each other since Cain and Abel, if you think about it. And I still never get it. War and people warring, and, it's just, but that, I think about boot camp. I think about one thing I always think about is, we're on the bus and you got all these guys, with the beards and these bad looking dudes with all the hair. And, some people can just look woolly and mean looking, and we're all these different people. And then you get on the yellow footprints, and then they get you in there. And then when they buzz everybody, we all look like drowned little rats, Nobody looks intimidating anymore, because he looks just like I do, know. But
they level the playing field pretty quick.
Yeah, it got leveled out, and then people like, man, I wouldn't have put up with that, and I'm like, you don't know what you're saying.
You got no idea. I always see those comments on Facebook, or like, talking to people in real life, and they'd be like, oh, if that dude got in my face, like, I'd kick his ass. And he'd be like, you wouldn't move a foot, dude. It'd be cemented, because by the time you picked it up in a form of an aggression, there'd be three drill instructors on top of you, like, done. Yeah, you can act like a tough guy out here, but like once you hit them yellow footprints, man, once you're standing there on that white line, first thing, forming formation at like 0600 in the morning, like, I mean, you fall right in line with everybody else that's there.
In shock, man. That shock thing they did, for us, it was crazy, but and then you're kind of just in shock and awe of the whole thing, but it was a great experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I know it helped me become who I am. Mm-hmm. I would be a different person. Well, we would be different without life experiences. I mean, we look at life experiences and we say, well, this happened to us. And if you think about it, you're like, okay, how did that, affect my life and shape me as an individual, mm-hmm. So the Marine Corps shaped me as an individual that I probably wouldn't have been shaped into without the Marine Corps. The loss of my son shaped me into an individual that I probably wouldn't be without the loss of my son, and that goes for everybody. And that's the way we have to look at life is, it's almost like, in the Marine Corps, Paris Island, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, so life is like phase 1, 2, 3, 4, however many phases it is, mm-hmm. Some people get longer than others. Why does a person live 1 minute and a person live 100 years? Yeah. Well, only, I'm back to my belief. Only God's got the answer to that, because I sure don't.
Right.
So I just have to trust that, if you're good, honest, you really try, then things will usually work out for you. And there's a big difference in life, and that's another thing I learned through the loss of Blake was, what you want, Jason, and what you need in life there's a big gulf between those two things. There's a great, nothing wrong with wanting, but if we could get happy with what we need, just be content that we're receiving what we need, that means that could mean a lot for a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
But it's like, I want. Look at these people that's got more money, and they want more and more and more. I don't, it's like, it's weird, man. How they just want more and more and more and more and more.
That's one thing.
I chase things,
I mean, you got to have goals in life, but that's one thing that my grandfather kind of explained to me at the age of 9 that it's still just like hammers home all the time. It's he had this quote, and it's, you buy shit you don't need with money you don't have to impress people you don't like. It's the American way, right? It's capitalism in its purest form. But there's you can't. I live under the assumption that like you can't ever be happy. That's kind of like my goal. It's like once you become happy, you're no longer driven. Once you hit that pinnacle of comfort, you're not driven anymore. Once you're comfortable, you're not striving to be better. So I think there's a little bit of give and take in that, but you've got to be content and happy with what you do have. And the things that you don't have, don't just want it, go after it. You got to have the motivation to get up every day and go after it. If you want something that somebody else has, don't sit back and be like, well, why does that person have it and I don't? I deserve it. You don't deserve shit other than what you actually get your ass out of bed and work for every day. What you don't see is, that person that, you want what they have. You don't see the struggle. You don't see the sacrifice. You don't see them, getting up at 4:00 in the morning and doing their studies and kind of laying out and planning their day and getting their things together and, going to bed at 11, 12 o'clock at night and then, getting up the next day to do the same thing again. You don't see the sacrifice. You don't see the struggle, and everybody just wants things and they expect it to be handed to them on a silver platter, and it's just not going to happen.
No, you can't lay in bed and think, oh, poor me.
Yeah.
You got to get out of bed and go to work, and I believe that if you do that, you will. Here's my philosophy too. If you get out of bed and you go to work and you try, you'll get what you need. You may not still be getting what you want, but you'll be getting what you need. And there's nothing wrong with, like I said, nothing wrong with wanting. I think about art, selling art. Okay, you know who I gotta sell art to, Jason? I gotta sell art to people that have money. I'm not gonna sell art to people like me because I would starve to death. You know what I mean?
Right.
I've gotta sell. Somebody buys a piece of my art. Number one, they have to feel something. I build it. I put my whole heart and soul into it, and they feel something. And that's great. And a lot of people feel something, but they don't have the second factor. They don't have the disposable income to purchase it.
Right.
And so if I can get those people that feel something and have the disposable income, those are my people, and I'm glad that they're out there. I'm not a hater of people with money. I don't understand people that doesn't give back, but there's a lot of people that do give back that have money.
Right.
Thank goodness, but there's some that won't give back and they just want more and more. If you look at, well, we can't talk politics, but if you kind of look at that, that's a good example of a group of people running the country and they don't really care about us. They just care about themselves. And that's pretty obvious, and that's on both sides of the spectrum.
Oh yeah. It's the same puppet, different hand.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I don't really understand that, as far as how we let that happen, but that's, people don't vote, but even if, I don't know, like I said, we ain't going there, but all in all, now I'm doing something now that, this is the best gig I've ever had. When I was in the fab business, let me give you an example. I'm in the fab business. I got 30 employees. Okay. I'm building all this stuff. I say I built a $30,000 tank, stainless steel tank. We did we had a pressure, we did pressure vessels, ASME code. So you build a $30,000 tank, and maybe the margin's 10%, at best, 15% margins. What is that? $3,000 that you're going to make, if nobody screws up.
Yeah.
Okay. And you know how
that's
many
a big
times
if.
people, that's a big if.
That's a big damn
that's
if.
Big if. I fought that if battle for 25 years. I'm looking at this job, and I know I can do that job in 100 hours. I ain't no doubt in my mind. You put me in that shop, and yeah, I could produce it, because I came up doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I put it out there 100 hours, and then the time comes in 150 hours, 140 hours, 100. It's like. So anyway, you're 10%. You make 10%. Say you make $3,000 on a $30,000 tank, and then I go out here in by myself, work by myself in my studio, and build a nice little piece of art, and then sell it for $3,000. And it's crazy the difference, between being in the fab business and being an artist.
Right. Is the stress level the same?
No. I have there's no stress in this. I mean, at all.
Okay.
I love what I do. I say this to everybody. We go through life, and we've all been there. The way this system is set up, Friday's the big day. You go to work on Monday, and you're wishing for Friday already.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to work on Monday, you're thinking about Friday. If you listen to the radio or anything, Wednesday's hump day.
Yep.
We're going to get you through this horrible thing called a week, and you're just pounding it out, trying to get through this horrible thing. Friday comes, yippee, it's Friday, man. You're off for 2 days, and you go blow it out, do whatever you want to do for 2 days. Sunday night, you're like, oh crap, I got to go do that again tomorrow, for another week,
mm-hmm.
and just living for Friday, and just kind of wishing your life away. You want it to be Monday, then Friday, the heck with Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Right.
You just want all that to be over with as soon as possible, so you can get to Saturday. But see, I don't, every day's Friday for me, Every day's Friday. I don't think about some days. I don't even know what day it is. You say, "Hey, Frank, what day is it?" I can't even tell you, because I'm in my studio pretty much every day.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't. There's no stress. I love what I do. I don't think I work really. I work harder than probably I've ever worked in my life. Like I said, I'm fixing to be 69 years old, and I can go with the best of them. You can get me 3 or 4 young bucks out there, and then they have a hard time keeping up with me.
Damn, I figured you might be in your 50s.
No, I'm fixing to be. I'll be 60. I'll be 70 next year.
Damn. I hope I'm where you're at when I'm 70, man. Because I seen you in there on that Metal Shop Masters just beating away on plate like like it was nothing.
Yeah, I've been doing it a long time, and I think moving. You got to keep moving, man.
Yeah.
Keeps you young. And so like I said, I'm doing something I love to do. And I tell people all the time, I'd rather have Blake and not be an artist, and not, maybe be miserable in the fab business, but I didn't get that choice. And I'm just thankful I got to make the transition, and I've been blessed to be able to do what I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I love it. And I'm very passionate about art. I tell Lou all the time, the possibilities. I think about the possibilities. They're endless.
Mm-hmm.
Think about, with art, probably, I guess you could say it with anything, but for me, with art and style and technique and materials, is the possibilities are endless, and it's kind of mind-boggling. I know I'm never going to even scratch the surface, in the course of my rest of my life. There's so many things I want to do, but just do them one at a time, and whatever I can get done between now and then. I meet a lot of people doing this. People will come in my gallery, buy art from me, and I get to hear their story. They get to hear my story, and it's really, really, like I said, it's the best gig I've ever had. and I love it.
Right. And you build some really cool stuff with, like, I mean, obviously I'm down here in Florida, but you've got like a lot of like marine life in the stuff that you do. So, like the shrimp piece that you've done, or like the marlins, or, I mean, is that kind of where you get your inspiration and motivation from, is the sea?
Well, whenever I first started naturally living and growing up on the Gulf Coast, I had a thing about sea life, and I used to dive. I did some diving, and I was always fascinated with the corals and the different thing. Because if you think about a piece of coral, you can take some rod and weld some beads on it, and kind of make it look corally, and it was kind of weird. But just living on the coast and doing art shows, and I realized down in Florida doing shows, it was like, hey, I need to build sea life. I did, and I did it to make a living. I would rather do other things. I still do my turtles and crabs and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
but I want to do big stuff. Be honest with you, I want to, that horse was pretty. I've got, between Florida, Alabama, and Louisiana, big public sculptures. I guess I've probably got 30 out there. I don't know how many personal pieces I have all over the place. I've been challenged to do some weird things, but I don't want to be like, whenever I was trying to think about maybe a logo, I didn't want to go with a fish or anything, so I settled on my logo is just Frank Ledbetter, BWL, my name and my son's initials, that's my logo,
Mm-hmm.
I guess I didn't want to be stuck as the marine, artist or whatever. I guess as long as you're making it, it doesn't really matter what people think. But I do a lot of things with cast aluminum. I love cast aluminum. Cast aluminum is very, there's so many things made of cast aluminum. Car, outboard motor, motorcycle, brackets on your TV, this bracket right here on this computer, it's crazy what I got, piles of it,
Now, do you cast your own aluminum, or you just get like cast aluminum scraps?
I'm talking scrap aluminum castings from, car castings and different things,
Okay. So do you run like a TIG welding process on that, or you run like a MIG? Okay.
I'm a MIG man. I MIG everything.
Okay.
And I just, Laura won that TIG machine at FabTech. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Did she really?
Yeah.
Oh,
she
that's
did.
awesome.
Yeah. We were at Fronius, that booth with Fronius, and what's that guy's name?
Justin.
Yeah. Justin. Anyway, they had a giveaway, and she signed up for it, and she won them. So I hadn't even set it up yet. I got to get it set up. But I'm strictly MIG. I do some crazy things with MIG. I do a lot of aluminum. Like I said, the aluminum casting is weldable, and they call it Texas TIG, and I call it redneck TIG, where you just use your spool gun and you feed, just like you're TIGging, except you're just feeding into the wire. I use a 1/2-inch aluminum rod and feed it into when I'm welding. I do some crazy stuff. Yeah. If you ever get down this way, come by. I'd love for you to come by and check it out.
I just might have to, because I'm supposed to link up at some point. I was supposed to go next month to Kentucky. And I was gonna do the Buffalo Trace Distillery tour with Jimmy McKnight, who was the original host of the podcast. We were gonna meet up there in Kentucky, and but like his schedule's not working out to be able to get down there, and my schedule's not working out to get down there. I'm supposed to go to a damn it, I'm not gonna be able to make it. I got to go see Metallica in Daytona on the 12th, so that's not gonna happen. So, but I'm gonna go to meet him up in Kentucky. So maybe on the way up there, I'll pass through and check out, your gallery and your shop and everything like that.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah. I would love for you to see. It's nice when people can really come by and see, because you can't take pictures of it, and really I mean, that's the thing about sculpture. You know, you can't capture it. You gotta see. But yeah, if you, I'd love to. You know, Chuck came down. You know, the other day, and with Flame Tech.
Chuck Fott.
Yeah,
he's a super cool dude, man.
Yeah, I love Chuck. He's he came down and kind of partnered up with me a little. You know, brought me some goodies. You know.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was nice of them. So I'm excited, and we hung out, got to hang out, and then went and had some had a little supper and a couple of beers, and we sat there in a restaurant probably 2.5 hours just talking. You know.
Yeah, he's such a super nice guy. We had him come down. I didn't realize that. I think he's based out of Kentucky. And he drove all the way down. We had an AWS section meeting that I was like, hey, you know, if you want to bring down your stuff and demo it. And he drove all the way down from Kentucky and, you know, put all of his, all the different products and stuff on display and showed all the students and the members of the section. It was really cool. And then I got to see him up again and at FabTech in Chicago. And then he was toting around that big-ass Scorpion that the guy made in Milwaukee built. Did you get a chance to see that?
Oh yeah, that was really cool.
That thing is slicker than owl shit, man.
Yeah, it's cool.
And but unfortunately, they couldn't hook it up. But apparently, it blows fire from the tail of the Scorpion.
I think I saw a picture of it blowing fire, but I
haven't got a chance to see it in person because the year or 2 years prior to that, when it was in Chicago, 2019, they had this big throne made out of all their oxy-fuel torches and everything. And they would like hit the button, and it was like the kind of like the Game of Thrones chairs, but it was made out of all torches. And fire would shoot up from it. So it was disappointing that you couldn't see the fire shooting out of the Scorpion, but they didn't really have a booth set up this year. But I want to see that thing in action. But I know Stephanie Hoffman has taken it on the tour with the Careers in Welding trailer. So that Scorpion's actually going to be, you know, at multiple stops throughout the U.S.
Yeah, she was here yesterday or day before yesterday. They're in town at the fairgrounds this week.
Mm-hmm.
And so she came by and got to check out the gallery, and we went and had had dinner, and that's really the first time I got to really any one-on-one time with her. You know, on the show that was taboo. You don't talk to the judges, and,
right?
And, I saw her at FabTech a little bit, you know, but I got to spend a little time with her, you know. But there's so many, all you know. The seven of us and David and Stephanie and they're just great group of people. And then I met you at FabTech, and then I met Chuck at FabTech and a few other people in talking to some other people about some things. Hopefully, it'll come to fruition. You never know.
Mm-hmm. Now was that your first FabTech going to Chicago?
Yeah, but that's weird to think about that. I was in the fab business 25 years and I've never been to FabTech, But and if it hadn't been for the Metal Shop Masters, probably wouldn't have went, to be honest with you. And now I'm kind of hooked. I thought it was kind of, I didn't realize there was so many, I don't know how it sounds, so many good people there, people that, I guess just being around people in the industry that, the welding industry and the art. I mean, if you're in the metal art, they just go together.
Yeah. It's very similar to like a family. I always look at FabTech as a family reunion. So I get to see like all my friends that like I haven't got to see in the past couple of years because we're all from different states. Like, Stephanie, she's from up in Jersey. My buddy Jeremy, he's from down in Louisiana. I got a buddy, Travis Jumper, he's from St. Louis. And, I get to see all these people from all over the United States because we all go to FabTech. So I'm really looking forward to I think next year it's going to be in Atlanta. Yeah. So you definitely got to go to that one. Because this year I got to meet you. I got to meet Ivan. I got to meet a lot of really cool people just by going. It's definitely cool to see all the new products that the companies are coming out with. But, I like to interact with people, one-on-one in person. Go out, grab a beer, grab something to eat. And just hang out, relax, and listen to people's stories and what they've been working on for the past year and some of the different challenges that, they've come across and how they rose past that challenge,
Right. Yeah.
So FabTech's always a great experience, always a great time.
Yeah. the equipment, all the things are, if you're in the biz, it just, it's the place to be. I mean, I was blown away, with all the things. Well, I've always been conscious of what's out there, especially with technology, just like 3D modeling and on a computer, and just like Lou and I, Luis from the show, him and I, been working together a little bit. He helped me with the horse. I did the horse, and I got I did the model, and then when I met him on the show, I didn't even have the job at the time, and I mentioned, I did this horse, and I said, if I could find somebody to 3D it on a computer, it would help. Oh man, I could do that, and then it's weird. After the show, I got back, and then I ended up getting that contract and reached out to him, and he worked with me on it. It's a small world, man. Like I said.
So you knew Lou prior to the show?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
No. This all happened, while we were on the show.
While you were there.
Having a conversation. Yeah.
Okay.
We had the conversation while we were on the show, and I didn't have the project at the time, and then lo and behold, when I got after we got back after the show was over, I ended up with the project. And I reached out to him, and we talked. Lou and I talk probably every day. Lou's going places. He's got it going on, and that's just my opinion. But he's a smart man, and he's got a good head on his shoulder. And I think, well, every none of us would have been on the show if we didn't have it together a little bit, don't you think?
Right. So how did Netflix actually reach out to you? How did they find you? Did they find you through Instagram? Yeah,
I was working in a shop. Phone rings, and it was California, and I picked it up, and the guy's name was Eric Flores, and he's like, this is Eric Flores. He said, I'm casting with a Netflix show, and I saw you on Instagram, and I want to know if you were. I thought it was a scam or something.
We're calling about your vehicle's extended car warranty.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, what's this? And so I was like, yeah, I would. And he said, well, you want to take it to the next step? And I'm like, what is that? And he said, well, we need to do an interview. And I said, okay. He said, we need to do a Skype interview, which I had never did a Skype interview, like I said, techno dummy. So I said, when? He said, how about tomorrow at 4:00? So I got my daughter Laura to hook me up on a computer, and this Carter Palmer, this lady, called me the next day. We did about a 25-minute interview on the computer, and she said, I think you're perfect. You want to, take it to the next step. And I'm like, what is that? She said, well, we need to do a background check and a psychoanalysis.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay. So they sent me a questionnaire thing, a psych thing I had to fill out. And then I had to talk to a psychologist for 45 minutes on a Skype interview, and then they did the background check. And so all that got done. And then I got a call. Me and Terry was watching TV on a Friday night, and I get a call, and it was Carter Palmer, the lady that had interviewed me.
Mm-hmm.
She said, I got good news. I want to let you know you're a finalist. You made it, you're a finalist. And I'm like, okay. And so COVID hit, and everything just got stopped, and everything was just on hold. And then they would hit us up every now and then and say, hey, we're waiting on LA to open up where we can shoot, and then as soon as they open up, we'll continue vetting. So I assumed that since I was a finalist, they were still vetting. They were still, I wasn't for sure. Mm-hmm. And then on a Friday night, they finally opened up. And Friday night, Mike Collin, I think it was his name, he called me and said I made the show. And that was weird, man. It was a weird feeling.
Yeah. What's that feel like when they call you up and they're like, "Hey, man, you're gonna be on Netflix."
You're gonna be on that. I don't. It's hard to describe. I mean, it's pretty exciting. I'm like, whoa. And it was still surreal. It's like, is this really happening? And then after that call, it wasn't long. A lady called me and said, hey, I'm sending the airline tickets. Next thing you know, I'm on a plane to LA, man.
Damn.
And there you are. Check into the hotel. They picked us up, picked me up at the airport, to the hotel, and put me in my room and said, you can't leave your room because of COVID. That was only downside to the experience was if it wasn't for COVID, we'd have had a lot more freedom,
Mm-hmm.
But we had three handlers. They'd pick us up in the morning at the hotel and take us to the set and then back to the hotel, but yeah, it was, people asked me if it was fun, and I'm like, I don't know if fun is the right word for it because it was so intense,
All right. So what was it like being in Los Angeles, like being confined to your room? Like how long were you there for?
I was there 2 weeks. Like I said, I was on 3 episodes, and I was there 2 weeks. And we got there I want to say I got there Friday and we started shooting Monday. So we had to stay in our room for 2 days.
Damn.
And they couldn't leave. They brought us food. Of course, we didn't know we hadn't met each other,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't want us to. When we first met that Monday morning, they didn't even want us to talk to each other. I never really got that, but it was kind of. But they had their own way of doing things, But it didn't take long for us 7 of us to just bond as a little family.
Right. Now, could you leave your room and kind of like explore the amenities of the hotel room, or did you have to you had to stay in your room the whole time?
Literally stay in your room. At the end there, we would slip out and go down by the pool area,
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, we were pretty much we did kind of hang out in the lobby a little bit. One of the handlers, Corey, he was really good. And he, like when I got cut from the show, he hooked us up with some beer, and we had a little party for me, in the lobby, that's kind of what it's just a little send off,
Right.
And, because it was sad to have to leave, but
Yeah.
it was inevitable for everybody.
I mean, you were building some pretty cool stuff on there. I mean, that's got to be a different feeling, like kind of building that in front of. And it's not even national TV. I don't think people understand like how many people are actually watching Netflix as compared to like watching Family Matters on a Friday night back in the 90s. Like there's no comparison. That was a couple million. I mean, you're in front of like a ridiculous amount of people because they transcribed it in like 30 some odd different languages.
Yeah, streams in 160 countries or something like that.
Yeah, that's friggin' nuts, man. So, like, what was it like building, trying to, like, okay, you've got 10 hours to do this. Like, go do it. What goes through your head at that point? It's like, shit. Like, I mean, when I build something, it's like, I think about it for a couple of days before, like, while I'm waiting on material to come into the shop, I'm thinking about how I'm going to build it in my head. I couldn't imagine, like, just turning around and walking out into a shop and having to put something together in 10 hours.
Yeah, it was, like I said, it was intense. It was, being in, I'm real comfortable in my shop, and then you're in a whole nother area of work and using different equipment, different things. And of course the safety, you had to do all the safety stuff, which, most people don't do in their shop,
Yeah.
You wouldn't believe the amount of welding I do without a shield, but
Damn.
but the things that we all need to be careful. I know, but it was just having to wear gloves. I don't wear a glove on my right hand because I just like the feel of that raw feel of that trigger. Because I'm MIGing. And I mean I can do some. And so I wear a left-hand glove only.
Oh, damn. You think they would sell them to you at a discounted rate?
Yeah, I wish I could just buy a left.
Yeah, just like I need one glove. I don't need the whole set. Just give me 50% off. I just need the lefty.
So I got a lot of right-hand gloves if anybody needs them. But yeah, getting back to your question, it was it wasn't what the first bill. I was a nervous wreck. That was the Avatar, and we got to work at home on that one.
Mm-hmm.
And then just had to be there, and you couldn't have anything together. Like the helmet on my Avatar. I promise you, Jason, I was like, I put it together, in 5 minutes, several times at my shop.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got on set, and they let us go, and all those cameras everywhere, and I couldn't even put it together, man. I mean, I was freaking out. Like, I did this in 5 minutes, 3 times in my shop to make sure everything's going to be okay. I couldn't get it together. That's how nervous I was on that first show.
I'd imagine so, but I mean, it turned out really good.
Yeah, once I got, I just had to calm down, and then after that, I never really thought about the cameras that much. I mean, those guys were all in your face. You're throwing sparks on them, and I'm like, dude, I'm fixing to throw these sparks on you. Come on, Frank, throw them on there. And they'd put a GoPro right under where you were plasma cutting, and they were all up in it. It was cool. It was a great. The crew was awesome, and the people that were there. It was a good experience overall. Something I never thought I'd experienced. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's in Hollywood.
that's the nerve-wracking part, is like performing, with a camera on you.
Yeah, I did interviews, and things, so it wasn't like brand new to me per se. And I'm usually comfortable in most situations. I try to, just be me, but I think the thought of even this podcast, the thought of how many people will hear it, you got to be careful what you say,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I got these people, there's some nasty people out there saying nasty things, about the show, about me, about other people, about, all of us really, but
really
people, yeah, there's some, you get one every now and then, and then you can't take it seriously,
Mm-hmm.
like, whatever, like
swipe right, delete.
Yeah, like when Lee and I were teamed up, we did it. And if you look at the show, it looks like we hate each other. It's like, oh man, but we're pals. She's a fabulous artist. And a lot of us I was out of my element, way out of my element. And it's like, man, but. All in all, people can't see the big picture because all they're getting is a snippet in time.
Yeah. They don't get to see the full story.
Yeah, we spent all these hours together, these 7 people, and got to know each other, and then they took all this stuff and edited it the way they wanted to edit it, which is fine, and people are getting a snippet of it, and they're drawing their opinion of like David or Stephanie or Ivan or me or on the snippet, and they don't it goes back to what we said earlier. We need to love one another. We need to just support each other, and let everybody do their thing. And I don't know, but I expected that. I told David and Stephanie both. I said, hey, you guys get ready. And they said, yeah.
It's going to be a different life after this thing airs.
Yeah, you got 2 judges on the show, and then when the show airs, you got millions of judges.
Yep.
And
those all the millions of judges are the people that like really don't do shit in their real life. They just the only thing they do is ridicule others.
Yeah, there's those out there, but then they, like I said, people be who they are,
Right. So now have you maintained like a lot of the relationships with the other contestants that went through?
Yeah, I talked to David all the time. I talk to Ivan. I talk to Lou every day, probably. I talk to Ray. I talk to Leah. I talk to Seven. Yeah, I talk to all of them. You
Okay.
know.
And they're all awesome people. Like I've known Stephanie for years. David, I got to meet through Stephanie. I didn't realize the massive amount. Like I've seen his work everywhere, but just didn't know that it was actually David that was the one that was doing it. And like
Yeah.
Ray, I've known for a while, and she's such a, like, you talk about a ray of sunshine and positivity and just loving other people. I mean, that's the definition of Ray Ripple. She's just such an awesome person. And then getting to meet, you and Ivan up there at FabTech, it was really cool just to kind of see that, like, okay, they're normal people, but they've got an excessive amount of talent, and the stuff that they do is like really cool, and they don't let it go to their head. They're still down to earth people.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what, and we're so diverse. Chuck made a statement when he was here. He's like, he's been to Ivan's place, my place, Ray's place, and maybe Tom's, and he was just talking about how different we are. We're just totally different, in our style and in the things that we do, and they brought us all together on this one show. And I've said, I've made the statement that, it would be cool if, AWS, Miller, anybody, I think would be smart to say, hey, why don't we bring them together and create something, even if it's for a charity, anything, because
that'd be freaking awesome.
I do pro bono, man. I do something, hey, pull us together, and build something together. That would be, I think it would be really, really cool. It'd be nice to, those are the kind of things I think about, that I would like to see happen. You wonder, like, what doors do you want to open, for you after being on Netflix, and then your mind's going crazy. Like, what is this gonna do for me? And then if you're rational, you think, okay, I'm a one-man show. I work by myself. If a million people decided they want a piece of Frank Ledbetter or a Frank Ledbetter piece of art, I couldn't even do it, So where does that put you in the big scheme of things? You just got a lot of people that know who you are, but then, like with my story, I think for me, what was important there was two things that I thought about when I got on the show. I'm going to meet some really incredible people. Because, I'm thinking they're not just going to have anybody on the show. So I'm like, I'm going to meet some really incredible people, which I don't really get to do every day because I'm pretty much just in my shop, in Podunk, Theodore, Alabama. but here I am, and I get to meet these people, and I get to tell my story to the world, and my story is a one of hope, and if my story can help somebody that's lost a child to see that, there is life after that, that's a big deal to me, that means a lot to me. And so that's, and that happened for me, the Netflix told my story for me to the world. I got to meet these fabulous people, got to meet you, got to meet Chuck. I mean, just all these people that I never would have met, if it wasn't for this show, and, having these relationships probably for the rest of my life.
Yeah. That's one thing you'll notice about the welding community is it's extremely tight. And that's what I tell, all, like, everybody that I run into that's like involved in the welding community, you're just getting into it. And it's like the welding community it's very small, but it's also, on the same side of that coin, it's a very large community and it's very tight knit. And that's what I've noticed about like going to FabTech or going to different events. It's like everybody's there because they've got that common passion for welding, whether it's structural or pipe or artwork or, fabrication or, just run-of-the-mill type, sticking metal together. Everybody's got that same passion for that little damn arc, that's about 3/8 of an inch diameter that everybody just stares at, once they flip their hood down. And it doesn't matter if it's going on a skyscraper. It doesn't matter if it's going on a pipe that's getting covered up in paint and dirt, or, if you're building a work of art that's going to be on display for millions of people. Everybody's attracted to that little 3/8 diameter ball of light.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating. I never was a welder by trade. That people say, well, are you a welder? Well, I can't. The thing about art is if you're going to be a metal artist, you got to know how to weld.
Mm-hmm.
You got to know how to stick two pieces of metal together.
Yeah, and make it hold.
Yeah, and if you're a welder, that doesn't make you a metal artist, but you're not going to be a metal artist if you can't weld.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like the two just kind of go together, and because I was a fitter, I read blueprints and built stuff, and I passed it on to the welder, to weld, although when I started my shop, I welded, I did a lot of welding in my day, but I wouldn't consider I'm a welder, but like I said, you got all these degrees of welding. You got those guys out on a pipeline, got to do X-ray welds. I couldn't do that, I might could learn to do it but I never did it,
Mm-hmm.
But I can weld good enough to put my art together, I built some big art, and I like to me, it's like painting, I mean, when I'm raking things with welds and doing beads, and because I like texture, it's almost like I got a paintbrush in my hand that's got fire on the end of it, That's kind of, it's a feel, you just feel it, and that's hard. Like I'm trying to teach my daughter to weld, I'm trying to get her, I know how it feels, and I'm trying to get her to, you got to feel it, So it's an interesting, it's come a long way since the old cracker box.
All right, we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break. This segment of the Arc Junkies podcast is brought to you by Strong Hand Tools, makers of heavy-duty welding tables, toggle clamps, magnets, and fabrication tools. If you're a welding student and you want to register your school for a free gift package, head on over to stronghandtools.com/ArcJunkies to register. And be sure to visit them at the SEMA show, booth number 37157, November 2nd through the 5th. We're also brought to you by AHP Welders. AHP Welders makes great machines for a fraction of the cost. If you're new to welding, you're looking to learn in your garage, or you just want a welder around the house to work on some weekend projects, head on over to ahpwelds.com and get a machine for under $1,000 without sacrificing performance. That's ahpwelds.com. Now let's get back into the show. Right. Now, did you ever do artwork as a kid? Like whether it's like sketching or figurines or anything like that? Or, I mean, is it something that you just picked up after the loss of your son that you were like, you just changed gears? And I mean, were you an artist before?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't an artist. I was, when I was in grade school, I had a first cousin that could draw really well. He was really, and me and him hung out all the time. He could draw anything. So he got me to drawing, but I wasn't good like he was, I could look at a Fred Flintstone cartoon,
Mm-hmm.
And I could draw it, by looking at it, but if you pulled it away from me and said, draw it, I couldn't draw it,
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, he pulled stuff out of his head, man. And he could do a lot. So I did that. And then when I got in high school, I didn't draw anymore. So I never really did. I always appreciated art. My wife and I would go to an art show, and I'd see some stuff, and especially metal, being in the fab business. I'm like, I could do that. She'd say, yeah, I'm sure you could, just pacify me,
Right.
But I never thought of myself as an artist. And then, after Blake, I just started doing some things, and just little simple things, and the more I did, the more I saw, and to this day, I see something different every day. I look at all the possibilities, of art and what it could be, and I'm excited. I stay excited about it.
Right. So what did you start off doing when you got into artwork? Well, like, what was your first piece?
I did this little fish out of rebar. I sketched it on a napkin, and it was about a foot long, I guess, and it was just kind of hooked in the bottom, and then I did some rebar, and that was my first fish, And then after that, I did a table, which was surprising. I did a table cut out the base, and then I did like a log, you know, and then I put some fish in it, you know, and then I look back on some of the stuff I did, and I'm like, holy crap, somebody actually bought that.
Right.
You know, I can't even believe people would buy it, you know. And I still got a piece I call Globy. It was I cut a board out kind of like the shape of a turtle, and I put some piece of metal on it, and it's really, really corny. You know, I keep it around just to kind of remind me of, and I got that fish I told you, you know, to kind of remind me of where I was, and, you know, and then I look at some of the stuff that I've done now. I mean, I did some huge sculptures.
Yeah,
you
you've
know.
done some rather large pieces.
Yeah, I've got, like I said, you've probably seen my website, but yeah, I did a lot of pieces, and hopefully I'm going to do a lot more, you know.
Right. So when you do these pieces and stuff, do you build it and then just let people buy it, or do you allow people to come in and commission you to build something?
I do a lot of like all the public art, you know, is commissioned, you know. So I got about, like I said, 30 pieces, you know, that's all public art that I was commissioned to do. Private pieces, you know, I got a lot of private pieces that I've done. I got one collector, you know, I'm doing a blue heron for her now. And she's probably got 30 pieces of my art. She's a serious collector.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. People that just follow me, you know, they collect. You know, I don't have a lot of collectors, but I got a few that, you know, when they get a little extra money, they come get get another piece, you know. But now, as far as and then I do a lot of spec art. I call it spec art, you know. And I just build it, and, you know, it's like the field of dreams. Build it and hope they come.
Right.
You know, somebody will buy it. But usually, eventually, it'll sell. You know, I've did some pieces where I'm thinking, oh, what was I thinking? And it, you know, nobody even looks at it. I mean, gives it a second thought, and then that right person just walks in, Jason, and boom. They walk in the door and walk up. I want that one. It's weird how that can happen, you know. That's that connection thing I was telling you about. You know, that's what's fascinating to me is when somebody comes in your gallery, you kind of see what they're attracted to, what they, you know, and you never know what it's going to be. You know, I had this piece that this guy gave me, this thing that somebody did. It was kind of triangulated. It was almost like a stick figure on this crazy base, and it had all these wires on it, you know, and it was just no rhyme or reason to it. And then I guess it was the head. It was like a triangle, and it was real small, and it was all dirty. It was about a foot high, I guess, or 2 foot and a half high. And he brought it by my shop because people give me stuff all the time. Hey, you want this, you know? And so I took it and threw it in a pile, and then I had this weed eater motor, and I was going to make a face, you know, with his head with this weed eater motor. So I made this head, and I walked back in the shop, and this thing fell off that I was telling you about, fell off, and I looked at it, and I picked it up, took it in the shop. I cut all those wires off of it and everything, cleaned it up, put a new base on it, you know, and put a 3/8 half-inch rod is what the shaft on the weed eater was. Put it welded on the top, took that little head off, and stuck this little head on, this weed eater head on this thing. And it was cool. I thought, man, that's really cool. And my wife looked at it and was like, what in the hell is that? And I'm like, I said, man, that's cool. She said, that's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. About 2 weeks later, the guy walks in, $1,500. He bought it, you know. So I got this check, $1,500. I walk in the house. She's like, what is that for? And I'm like, you know that thing that you said that you hated that nobody would ever buy? I said, this guy just bought it.
Right.
You know? You never know.
That you walk in the house all proud like a big old chicken man walking in there like a rooster.
Like a baby rooster.
Yeah, like I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so.
I told you so. But that's the fun of art. knowing that I listened to a motivational tape this one time. This guy, he was a car salesman, and he was a serious car salesman, sold a lot of cars. And he was telling about how, and his philosophy was there's an ass for every seat,
Mm-hmm.
and you think about it, it's kind of like the same when you're building art, if you build it, there's somebody out there, if you can ever make that connection with them and get it in front of them. Like right now, I got a lot of art in my gallery that I've created, and I've got to figure out where are those people that will buy it.
Mm-hmm.
I got to get it. I got to figure out how to get it in front of them. And that's probably the universal problem for any artist, I guess, is initially when you become an artist, your first thing is, can I do it? Am I an artist?
Right.
And then if you ever get to the point where you feel like, yes, I'm an artist, that's not an issue anymore. I believe I can build anything. The next thing is, well, how do I sell it?
Mm-hmm.
And then that's probably more difficult than for me. I mean, marketing is tough. Nobody knows how to market stuff. There are people that do, but most people like me don't, So I thought, well, maybe this Netflix thing would get me out there, in front of enough people. Maybe I could, to sell this stuff, because I got some really cool things, but it's, I just got to find the right buyer for it,
Right. Now, do you still do like your mobile art shows and stuff like that? Or are you pretty much primarily planted right there at the house?
I'm planted. I don't, that was a means to an end. I tell people all the time, they're like, man, I'm getting started. What do I do? I said, well, I really can't, can't tell you what to do, but I'll tell you what I did. And I'll tell you, I think it'll work for you. If you want to do it, you get you a trailer and a tent or whatever, and you go to art shows. You sign up and go travel, pull that trailer. I pulled it all over the country, and it puts you in front of a lot of people, and it's cheap marketing. If you pay $250 for a booth for a weekend, I mean, that's cheap marketing because it's going to put you in front of thousands of people. So you can't market yourself any cheaper than that. It's a tough way to go, but but art shows, started out doing art shows, people buy, and then that's when people would actually walk in my booth and say, hey, you think you could do this? And they would challenge me or commission me to do a piece, and I would do the commission piece. And then that led to public pieces, and then when I started doing public pieces, people would see public pieces. And then I met a guy in Louisiana, Henry Shane. He's a philanthropist, he's done really well, and he's an art lover. And I met him at an art show, and he's like, hey, this is, I'm buying art, and then I'm donating to the city and blah, blah. And, he bought a couple pieces of my art, and he asked me if I was interested in working with him. And I built a sculpture with him, and, and I've did several. I don't even know how many. That horse is one I'm working with. He's the one that commissioned me to do a horse.
Yeah, that Trojan horse looks freaking amazing. Like I can't even wrap my head around, like, where do you start with that? Did you start with the trailer? Did you start with the horse? Did you start from the bottom? Did you start with the head? Like, how the hell does that even happen?
Well, it goes back to, I was telling you about hooking up with Lou, and when I built the model, just random, triangle pieces, built this model. And then I knew I had to blow it up, which I did stuff like that and blown it up, And then Lou made it easier for me because he could take it and put it on a computer in 3D. So once it's 3D'd, then you can blow it up as big as you want. You just got the shapes that you got to cut out to create it.
Right.
So basically, he put it on a computer and blew it up, and then we had the nesting to cutting the pieces, and then so I've got access to CNC, and I cut all the parts and everything, and then I can't say it was as easy as putting a puzzle together, but it was like putting a puzzle.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is a big ass puzzle to put together. Like the geometry that goes along with there, and like making sure that you don't have like gaps and negative spaces and all that.
Well, the thing about the computer don't lie. I mean, it's perfect, but that's a perfect world. And when you go to actually do it, I started at the ass end of it and started working up, and I got to the chest and nothing was working out right, you know. And that's because if you get off with this angle or that angle,
and it just compounds
itself all the way to the, and then I got to the chest and I was really frustrated, and I'm like, okay. And then I realized that I had built a model without anything, and I knew I could do it. So I didn't totally abandon the plan. I just had to start tweaking, you know. So I started tweaking and worked everything. And then once I started tweaking, I worked it out, you know. And so there was things like that. But overall, I built the body of it on the table in the shop because I don't have a shop big enough to have that whole thing in there. I got a slab out back of my shop where I build parts and go out there and do final assembly, you know, when I'm doing big sculptures. So I did the body on the table. We got the body off the table because I couldn't do that by myself. Got the body off the table, moved it outside, and I had the legs. I built the legs and the tail and the head inside, and I went out, put the head on. And once I got the head on, my buddy brought his telehandler over. We picked it up and put the legs under it, set it on the legs, and then set it out of the way and put the cart together. You know, I already had the wheels and the axle, all that done. Put the cart together and then pick the horse up and put it on the cart.
Dang.
So that's a process.
So that cart actually rolls?
No, it doesn't roll. No,
that's probably for the best though.
But yeah, but we could have made it a roll, but it's a fixed sculpture, you know, so there was no need to make it roll. Okay.
Now that's pretty cool. So like one of the themes with the Arc Junkies podcast is make every weld better than your last. And it's like, it's all about learning from experience and learning about from, you know, like some of the things that have troubled you along the way. Some of the things that like pitfalls or, you know, some of the things not to do. Like what's one of the greatest challenges that you've found, you know, since you were, you know, putting artwork and stuff together? What's one of the greatest challenges you faced, and how did you overcome that as an artist?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think the first challenge was the doubt. Okay, you know. Because you have, I doubted myself because I'm doing something. I mean, I'm doing something. All of a sudden, my life has changed. My world's been rocked, and then I'm doing something that, number one, I wasn't trained to do. I never dreamed I would do, and I don't even know how I'm doing it. So those are weird. Then I mean now that sounds crazy, but I don't. I'm like, I did projects that I look back and I'm like, how did I even do that? You know, it's kind of been a phenomenon, if you, or whatever word you might want to use for it. For me to be able to do what I do, as far as the biggest challenge I found in being able to do what I do was I had to learn to start. So I would I get a project and I don't really know what direction to go. I'm not really sure. I take this project and then I'm like, well, how am I going to do this project? And then what I learned, Jason, was to just start. And then if I ever just make myself start, it's another one of those weird things. Once you start, it almost tells you what to do next. And I know that sounds crazy or corny or whatever, but if you talk to a lot of artists, you might hear the same thing. Like people ask me, do you see that whole thing before you start? And I'm like, no, I don't see the whole picture. I see enough to get started, you know? And once I get started, it evolves on its own with me facilitating it. I know that sounds crazy.
No, that makes perfect freaking sense. No, that makes perfect freaking sense.
Yeah.
That's the same way, like, because I've done pieces before in the past when I was running my small mobile welding business and stuff. It was like, can you do the job? Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, like you roll with that, that confidence. Yes, I can definitely do that job for you. And then you go home and you're like, shit, like, how am I gonna pull this off? How am I gonna do this? And it's like, that's the thing, is you just have to start.
You gotta start.
You've got to start. So I think getting over that initial hump, and I've told so many people on the podcast, like I've told Ray and like just so many people, I don't see myself as an artist, but like I've built some artistic type shit. But the thing is that was the part that, the initial part is just start, and then everything else starts to flow. Everything starts to come together. You see that. Just go grab that, the first piece of metal that you're going to need, and just make a cut, make a weld, make a bend. And it's just a start. Even like, when I'm grabbing something on a set of blueprints, it's like, how the hell am I going to make this? Grab a piece, find a corner, and just start.
Yeah. Yeah. I got a crazy story. A piece I did an art show, and this lady got a card. She didn't even talk to me. She just picked my card up, and she called me the next week. She was from Kentucky. Are you familiar with the Roebling suspension bridge over the Ohio River?
No, I should be.
He built it in the 1800s. It's the Roebling Bridge. But anyway, she calls me. She said, I picked your card up at the show. I want to do a table. And she said, I'm from Kentucky. I'm a developer. And she said, I got 5 kids. I like the Roebling suspension bridge. I like paddle wheel boats. I like a crucifix. She's talking about these things that she liked, and I guess what she's saying is she's looking for me to do this table with all these stuff in it. And I'm thinking, this is crazy, So I'm like, I never seen the Roebling suspension bridge in my life, and didn't even know it existed. So anyway, we had a conversation, and I said, well, let me think about it. So I thought about it, and I got back with it, and I said, well, I got an idea, what I might could do, and I said, and she said, maybe I could do the bridge and some different things. And she said, okay, and then she said, well, how much? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I'll have to call you back.
Yeah.
So I called her back, and gave her, it's a big number. And I said, this is what I do it for. And she said, well, can I think about it? And I'm like, sure. And then we kept talking, and she's like, right in the middle of the conversation, she said, you know what? And I said, what? She said, I don't need to think about it. Let's do it. So she sent me half up front. So this is one of those ones where I'm like, what have I got myself into?
Right.
So I get this lady's check. So I go out, Chuck. I went out. Jason, I went out to my shop, and I was thinking about, I went online, looked at this bridge, never seen it before, and looked at this bridge, went out in the shop on a Sunday, and I was like trying to figure out how to build these towers of this bridge. I had to do the span, the tower, and I freaked out. I'm like, oh my God, I've taken this lady's money. I'm going to have to send her money back. I mean, I'm thinking all these horrible things. This is not going to happen. And then, so I just put it down, and I walked in the house, and Terry, my wife, she's like, she looked at you've been married long enough. All I got to do is look at
you get to look.
Yeah, she said, what's wrong? I said, I don't know. I took this lady's money, and I was out there thinking about this bridge. And she said, well, just chill, just think about it tomorrow. She said, you want to watch this movie? And I'm like, yeah, I guess so. So we sat down. So we're watching this movie, and it's George Clooney in this movie. And I can't remember the name of it. It won't never come to me. So him and this lady's driving in a car, and all of a sudden they're driving over this bridge. And guess what bridge they're driving over? The Roebling suspension bridge, the one I got to build. And I'm like, pause it. She said, what's the matter? I said, that's the bridge. That's the bridge. And it was like a sign from God, I guess. It's like, there you go. What are the odds? Just think about it. And then there was another scene in the movie where they were sitting on the park bench and the bridge was in the background, the whole bridge. So the next day I went out there and I created this table. It was like 8 feet long. I did the base shaped like the state of Kentucky. I built the Roebling suspension bridge, the towers, the span, everything. I put 5 little characters. There's a walkway on each side of that bridge. I put 5 little characters for all our kids on the, looking over the rail. I did a crucifix in the middle, with Jesus on it. And then I had a paddle wheel boat coming underneath it, and it turned out crazy cool, but that's just I got stories like that where people, commission me to do things and, it just all comes together,
But that's all you needed was the start.
I just needed to start, and I think the movie, just seeing that movie, I mean, what are the odds? That's just weird when things like that happen, It's like, okay, I get it. I got this.
It's a crazy coincidence.
But that's the thing about art, just art, as far as the welding side of the art, hadn't ever had any welding issues outside of frustration with, burn back.
Yeah. Oh, especially with aluminum MIG welding, man.
Aluminum MIG welding.
That stuff's like, that's the religion of aluminum welding is burn back.
It's burn back, baby. Yeah. I use a 1 pound spool gun, and it's weird. Some days it'll burn back, and I'll have some days where it never burns back. It's just really, really weird. But I've learned to cope with it. At first, it was really hard, and now, I just take it in stride. Take the tip out.
Put another one in. Yeah.
I actually take a flapper wheel and grind them down.
I've done that.
Flap them down until they get too short. But I'll do that 2 or 3 times.
I did that. I worked for a company right when I got out of the Marine Corps doing. Their whole business was structural steel ironwork, but they hired me to do aluminum MIG welding initially, before I got into erecting stairs and hanging, structural steel iron and all that stuff. But they were so damn cheap that they would give me they're like, okay, here's your contact tips. And they'd give me 3 or 4 contact tips for the day.
Yeah.
And at the time, I didn't know. I'd never bought a contact tip. I came straight out of the Marine Corps and got into civilian jobs. You would think that these things were made out of pure gold.
Yeah.
Because they give you 3 or 4 a day. And I would go out there and I'd get burned back. And I'd take the flapper wheel, I'd take the contact tip out, take it to the flapper wheel, put it in a vise, clean it up. And then I would take, I just sharpen up an old 7018 and cut it down to 1.5 inches and just kind of use that as a little punch and, knock the center of that aluminum piece out and pull it out with a pair of Welpers and put it back in there and go back to work. And I did this forever until I actually had to go to, we didn't have any contact tips left. So I had to go to the local gas supplier and I was like, yeah, I need 5 contact tips. And they're like, we'll sell you a group of 20 of them. And I was like, for $7. And I was like, holy shit, give me a box of 100. And it's way cheaper, just to buy these things and swap them out when you need them than it was to me take half hour to grind it down and clean it out and everything. But aluminum, it can be a very tricky monster. And then it wasn't until I went up to Lincoln Electric that I found out that, you should be running 40 CFH on your argon to keep that weld puddle a lot cooler to keep it from burning back. And if you're getting more burn back, you want to drop your voltage or increase your wire feed speed. So it took me years of fighting contact tips to be able to figure out how to do it. But as soon as I teach MIG welding to my students, I show them exactly how to clean that tip out, because the time you're going to need to know how to do that the most, you're not going to have a spare tip to be able to throw it in there. You gotta understand how to clean that thing out and just swap it out and just, make shit work, Yeah.
Oh yeah. I know about that. I mean, when I was first getting into it, I didn't have any money, after coming out of the fab business, I got poor, man, trying to be an artist. It was a tough time financially, but I did just using a left-handed glove. So since I didn't use the right one, when the fingers would wear out on the left one, I'd cut the fingers off the right one and duct tape them on to the left one, so I could get a lot of mileage out of a left-hand glove. I did stuff like that, like I said, grinding tips down, drilling them out, anything to save a buck. You know, there was like, I hated that time. At least now I can at least go buy, new gloves. I buy a whole pack of gloves,
right.
Just throw the right one away.
Yeah. Go buy a whole pack of gloves, get a kind of 100 contact tips and everything, and you just keep moving.
Yeah. Keep moving. Yeah. I keep 2 grinders on my workbench at all time. One with a flapper wheel, one with a cutoff wheel. And then when that flapper wheel gets gets down to that nub part, I'll take my cutoff wheel and turn them both on and trim it back down. I can get a lot more mileage out of a flapper wheel like that.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of mileage out of a flapper wheel.
Okay.
I guess when you're trying to survive, you learn a lot of things that you can do.
Yeah, that's a lot of things that I took for advantage at work. When you got to buy that shit at the house, you figure out how to make that flapper wheel last a lot longer, because they're like $7 a pop, know? Yeah. And when you clean down 3 or 4 welds and it's like, look shot. It's like at home, you're like, nope, I can still get another 3 or 4 welds out of it. But at work, you're just like, I'll just grab a new one, So like when you got to pay for it yourself, you understand, you can figure out exactly how far to stretch that piece. Yeah.
Well, it's like, with this thing with Netflix and, going to Fab Tech, and then people, like Flame Tech, partnering up with me. And then, other people that I've talked to, I'd love to partner with somebody that, abrasive company, flapper wheels and stuff, that would be cool, because that would be a good partnership for me. I think it'd be a good partnership for them too, because I use a lot of them,
Mm-hmm.
and I can show using it on a lot of because I flapper wheel everything. Doing aluminum, you're going to do a lot of flapper wheeling.
I think it's called, I can picture the tube in my mind. I'll figure out what the tube is that I use, but I think it's like a Tapmatic or Lube-matic. It's a blue tube of wax, and all you got to do is rub that on the part that you're going to grind, or run your flapper disc up to like full RPMs and just tap the tube on the wheel a couple times, and it will take an aluminum weld down from like a thick glob of weld down to like smooth parent metal in like 5 seconds.
Oh, really? I never heard of it.
It's just a wax. I want to say. I'll get you the name. We used it all the time at the school. I had a buddy that when I was working with the Ironworkers Union, I got laid off a couple times. And like during that time, I was like, well, I don't want to collect unemployment. I'd rather work. And because I was doing shop work, it wasn't like I was, working non-union somewhere else doing structural steel iron. So I could work in a shop. It wasn't like a conflict of interest because they didn't train me to do that type of work. But my buddy Bill Warren, he built gates, and that's all he did was build like aluminum, fancy ornamental gates for like really high-end rich people. And that's one of the things that I learned with him is you use this wax, rub it on the weld, rub it on the piece, or rub it on the wheel, and it'll knock it down like quick, fast, in a hurry, and your disc is like practically brand new.
Wow, that's interesting.
Now I know
there are a lot of products out there.
Yeah. And I know that Weiler makes a disc specifically for grinding aluminum that doesn't load up with the aluminum particles and everything that causes the wheel to glaze over. And that one works pretty good
rock.
Too. Yeah.
You ever hear of the green rock?
No, I haven't used the green rock.
Yeah, it's green. There's a Sigma green, and then there's this Campbell makes it's called green rock, and that it doesn't load up, and it'll eat stainless aluminum. I mean, I love that rock. I mean, that's my favorite rock,
Right.
I mean, they're expensive, but they're worth it,
Right. And that's Rockmount, the company, one of the companies that supports the Arc Junkies podcast. They just came out with a wheel that's great for like soft metals like aluminum that you can take it down from you put the weld on there, and then you can take it from weld all the way down to the base metal and polish it with just one wheel. So you don't have to
Wow.
switch out between like a rock, a flapper, and then, another type, like a polishing type wheel. It's got it all in one. So it's kind of like a flap disc with like the 3M kind of, like that, or the purple, what the hell is it? Like a buffing pad.
Yeah, I know.
It's all laced into one wheel, so you don't have to switch between 3 or 4 wheels to clean everything up.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, like I said, you wouldn't believe the grinding I do. I mean, I grind. So I never leave a well unground. Well, with my art, that's just the way. And like I said, I do a lot of aluminum. I only work aluminum and stainless. Now the horse is core 10. I did a previous job not too long ago. I did some spheres, 5-foot diameter spheres, and I used my puzzle design on them, and they actually light them up. And they're in Destin, Florida, and they were core 10, and that horse is core 10. Core 10's they call it designer steel, and a lot of artists use core 10. I like working core 10.
Is it pretty easy to like manipulate and form into the shape you want?
Yeah. It's to me, it's all just metal. People ask me like, why? It's like welding. People are like, yeah, that's tough welding that aluminum. That's tough welding that stainless. And I don't know where these people get this concept of, to me, welding's welding. It's like, but if they want to think that, that's fine. If they want to think it's difficult, but like you do, that's stainless, isn't that? Or that aluminum, isn't that harder? But like I said, I love aluminum. It's my favorite. Aluminum is my favorite thing. Now, if I'm going to do a big sculpture, a outdoor sculpture, stainless is the way to go. Or like I said, the horse is core 10. Core 10 will last forever. It just gets that patina look and stays that way. So it's the horse lended itself for that. I was thinking about building out of stainless, and I changed to core 10. I'm glad I did.
Right.
I think it's a better look.
No, it definitely looks a lot cooler because it's got like a bronze, bronze / patina / like that Texas paint job look to it, because it's got a bunch of different colors on it, and it all flows really well together.
Yeah, it's a good look. It's definitely a good look. Like I said, I do a lot of painting. People really like my paint jobs on my art. I use automotive candy paints, which is translucent, so I don't lose my grind marks and everything when I paint it. And then I use clear coat, and I didn't always paint. I just started. It's like everything it evolved. And then now I'm doing a lot of wood and metal together, mixing wood and metal. I got this one piece called the Dance. It's a kind of a round piece of wood with a sphere in it, and then it turns from wood to metal, and you can't tell where the wood and metal, wood stops and the metal starts. And that's fun doing.
You get pictures of that on your Instagram?
Yeah. I'll send you one.
I'm gonna have to check that out. That sounds pretty neat.
I got several series. I got my Faces of the Discarded series that I do with outboard motor. I use lower units and stuff. It's all outboard motor. You've probably seen, I don't know if you've seen that. I got my freewheeling series, which is I cut up wheels off cars and make art out of that. And then I have a Woody series where I do these critters with out of wood and metal. I'm using cast parts like carburetors and, just any kind of cast aluminum and putting these Woodies together. But I'm having fun with a lot of different things, just looking at what might be next.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing. Do you like consider any of this work? Do you consider it a job? Do you ever wake up in the morning and you're like, shit, I got to go out to the gallery and I got to like stick some metal together? Or, do you like jump out of bed and you're like, man, I can't wait to pull that trigger this morning?
That's the way it is. I can't wait to do it. I love what I do. It's not like a job. And like I said, I work really, really hard at it, and it's physical, and I do really good for an old man, to hang in there all day like I do every day, but I got one guy that, Josh, he comes and welds for me sometimes, when I got a big project I need help, and he'll stay with me, but I don't really, I got so cynical of working people when I had all those employees, and not that I'm down on people, but it's like, you just get tired of the excuses,
Mm-hmm.
and
I can't make it. I got a flat tire, or like, I got to take my hamster's having twins this morning, double hysterectomy. Yeah,
exactly. I've heard it all. There's nothing I hadn't heard.
It sounds about like the same with students. Like, I had a student that he's like, I got to go home. My dragon's bleeding, and I'm like, dragon? What the fuck? What are you talking about? Your dragon's bleeding? And come to find out, he's got like this freaking lizard that ate some kind of cricket or whatever, and it was hemorrhaging blood. And I was like, it wasn't until like a day or two later that I figured out what the hell he was actually talking about. But I was like, he was frantic. He's like, I got to go home. My dragon's bleeding. And I'm like, you got to be shitting me. Like, you're supposed to be here in school. Like, you've got to be able to come up with a better excuse than this. Like, seriously, your dragon's bleeding? But it was like his bearded dragon was like, ate something, and I was like, you're really going to take time off from school to like go tend to your dragon? So I can imagine, like, as an employer and stuff, the type of excuses. Like, when I was running work for the union, you get a menagerie of excuses of why they can't show up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I got a flat tire. I can't make it to work today. Really? It's going to take you 8 hours to change a spare?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get some of that stuff. I got food poisoning. That's the third time this month, man. You might want to change your diet.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, at 25 years in the fab business, there's nothing I hadn't heard. I've heard it all. I think about, these, we talk about these transitions and stages of life, and I look back and I see that I was, in some way I was being prepared. Everything, you're being prepared for the next phase. You might not even realize it,
Mm-hmm.
And then you wake up one day and you're like, wow, I'm here. What happened up back there that's helping me be here? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think about that a lot. It's like, oh, wow. My experience in the fab business had nothing to do with me being able to do art, except knowing how to manipulate metal, Yeah. And so I've manipulated a lot of metal, and now I'm manipulated in another way, And then of course, like I said, I'm always experimenting with what's next, what's next. But there's so much art out there, man. So many talented people, It blows my mind, the talent that's out there,
right?
And the things that people can dream up in their head, and actually do, If you get hung up on that, though, it can be intimidating, like, wow, because I always think about it like this. I'm like, I look at somebody else and I'm like blown away at what they do. Who's to say that they're not looking at what I do and they're blown away with what I'm doing,
Right.
So it's just kind of like, okay, I'm going to do me, let them do them. And there's room for everybody, There's a big pie out there, and you just need a really small slice of it to go back to what we said earlier, get what you need,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not what you want, but what you need.
Right. So you don't look at other artists as like competition or anything like that then?
No, you can't do that. You can't look. No, I don't. Everybody, like I said, you can. I joke about being a hater sometimes. It's just a joke. Like, I'm hating on that person, or I'm jealous. I think a lot of people would never admit they're jealous. I could be jealous. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't jealous sometime. Like, man, but in reality, there's nothing to be jealous of. Just do you, let them, you are who you are. And people ask me all the time about, especially, kids that talk about want to be a welder. I'm like, if you become a welder and you're good at it, you'll never have to worry about having a job.
Mm-hmm.
but you gotta love it.
Yeah.
But you gotta love it. If you become a welder to make for the money only,
yes,
you're not going to be a successful welder because you're going to hate it.
Yep.
More than likely, and that's that goes back to what we said earlier. Every day's Friday for me. Try to make every day Friday for you if you can in life. I know that sounds corny, but
no, it doesn't. I think
that's
though
what we should do. Everybody should strive to make every day feel like Friday as best they can instead of wishing the week away.
It doesn't sound corny at all, because like I've said on the podcast before, there's a lot of miserable people driving BMWs and Mercedes to work every day. Like you said, just waiting for Friday. It's like, shit, Friday. Like tomorrow's Monday. I got to go back to the office. I got to deal with all these emails. I got to deal with these customers. I got to, whatever it is. It's like, if you have the opportunity to pick, your vocation, to pick your trade, to pick your job, be truly passionate about it, so that every day when you wake up and your feet hit the floor, like, damn, I can't wait to get to work today because I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're putting, structural pieces together in for the field guys, or, you're building conveyor systems, or you're building widgets, or you're building, components for a power system. Wake up every day. Maybe, a lot of people are like, I got out of welding because there's no money in it, or I got out of welding because I didn't like what I was doing. It's like, with welding, do you understand the vast amount of opportunities that are available for you? I mean, look, you can get into aerospace, you can get into automotive, you can get into artwork, you can get into structural steel, you can get into the pipeline. You can build widgets for, manufacturing. It's like, there's so many different avenues. Don't just cancel it out because, you really hate welding I-beams together, or, you hate sticking pipe together.
Right.
Change gears, find a different career in welding. It's not the welding that sucks. It's the line of work that you're in. And 9 times out of 10, people don't quit the company they're working for. They quit their management. So maybe you just need to find that same type of work under a different team of leadership.
Exactly. Somebody cares about you, or act like they care about you.
Yeah. I just had a dude send me this thing, this clip on Instagram that there was this company, and I think they're a debt management collection group or whatever. But, the CEO of the company says, hey, I'm going to go ahead and take a pay cut so that I can provide all of my employees with an average salary of $70,000 a year. And he was mocked by all kinds of different news outlets and economists and all kinds of stuff. They're like, oh yeah, Harvard's going to be studying this guy many years from now because he's running this socialist platform where all of his employees are going to make $70,000 a year. But after a couple of years, a record number of his employees paid down massive amounts of debt. A bunch of them, they bought their first house. A bunch of them started investing. And it's like, he took the pay cut and invested that pay cut in himself as a CEO, took that pay cut and invested it in his employees, and they flourished, and they loved going to work. And then I think after the first year, they tripled, their annual income for the company. So now obviously the CEO, his salaries, bumped back up. His employees' salaries went up, and his business tripled in size. Just invest in your people, invest in your employees. Most people quit, they don't quit their job, they quit their management. Yeah.
Well, James F. Lincoln, they started Lincoln Electric. I mean, his philosophy, he wrote a book in 1953, and it was it was called Incentive Management. If you ever get a chance to read it, it's really interesting, but it's, he incentivized his workers, and they made a lot of money, and they made him a lot of money, he motivated them with incentive, and
that was the thing. Oh, go ahead.
There's something to be said for that, incentivizing somebody, motivating them. There's some people that can't be motivated, but you got to weed those out. You gotta, anytime you're trying to incentivize somebody, if you got a group, you got to have enough of them on your side, to make it work, because the ones on your side, the dead weight's going to be hurting them, and they know it. and they're gonna either get rid of them or they're gonna get them on board or whatever, But he created an awesome company, and that was his deal,
Yeah.
And of course he was anti-union, but that's, union came along because people were being abused, and that's what started the union, and food stamps is a good program. All these all the things that we have, any programs and all, they were started to help people that need it.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with this is my opinion, but the problem is we don't police the system, so it gets out of hand, just like the union. The union started out and it was a good thing, and then it turned into a good old boy club, and it just like, okay, let's, like when I was working at the union, I mean, you can't have a situation where you can't fire somebody.
Yeah.
That's just not, there's no logic to that. If a guy's messing up, he can't be protected by another entity, like the union. If he's working for this company, it's a union company. I get it, I get that part of it. But then the part I never got was he's bulletproof.
Yeah.
And I just don't think you need to be bulletproof if you're a jerk and you just don't know what the heck you're doing.
Yeah.
You need to be, like we can't use you.
Held accountable.
And held accountable. Yeah.
Damn, Frank, there's so much to unpack in everything that you just said. I want to start. No, it is great. I want to start back with the stuff you were talking about, the James F. Lincoln, because like to date, like the last time that I toured Lincoln's facility back I think the last time I was up there was like 2018, 2019. They've never fired a single person. They've never fired a single person because the employee incentive program that they have. And like I heard about this at Lincoln, and I was like, that sounds too good to be true, that they can make just as much on a bonus as they can with their annual salary. And so I went up, like I said, I'm from Northeastern Ohio. My aunt used to work at a bank, and she's like, no, Jason, you don't understand. These people come in right around, December with their regular payroll check, and then they have their bonus check. And they take this bonus check, and they're like, yes, I would like to pay my house off. It's like, holy shit, like their bonus check was just as much as their annual salary, because most of the stuff that they do up there is all piecework. And so it's, how hard do you want to work? Okay, you want to work this hard? We're going to pay you this much. Okay, you don't want to work that hard? Okay, we're going to pay you this much. So you've got an incentive program, so that's kind of like how Lincoln's ran it, and they've never had to lay somebody off, because if you weren't making enough money, that's because you weren't putting in enough effort, and so you left. So they've never had to fire anybody. They didn't fire anybody during the pandemic that came through. Everybody kept working. And like when I toured the factory, like everybody seemed happy as hell. And I was like, this just seems like it's too good to be true. So I know if I still lived in Ohio, Northeastern Ohio, I would go to work at Lincoln, either as a welding educator or somebody on the line building parts and components for the equipment they put out. So that's just one thing. And then you were talking about union versus non-union. And I completely get that, because I've worked both sides of that coin. I worked union for a long time. I worked non-union for a long time. And, you're right. There shouldn't be a separate entity protecting, like what we termed in the Marine Corps as a shitbird,
Right.
Exactly. You've got somebody that doesn't want to put forth this the sufficient effort and time, and just like everybody else. And that was the one problem that I had with the union. It's like, I'm putting out 110%, as a journeyman. And this guy next to me, he might be putting out like 50%, but he's a journeyman, and we still have the same protective collective bargaining rights and all that stuff. But like when I grew up, I had a neighbor, and he worked for, we'll just say, an amusement park, a well-known amusement park here in Central Florida, and he was part of a union program. And he showed up to work one day, and he had a blood alcohol content that was above the legal limit. Showed up to work this way, and he was a bus driver. And hit another vehicle, and he was protected, and he was allowed to go back to work the next day because he had outside representation. Whereas if you work for a non-union company and you show up drunk and you hit another vehicle, you're done. You're done, man. Yeah. There's no protection. You done screwed up. You should have quit drinking 8 hours before your shift. You should have called in sick. You should have said, hey, I am not cool to operate this vehicle. So you should not have that protection. But yeah, you're right. Everything gets, everybody starts taking advantage of the system, and they'll abuse the system to their advantage. Given the opportunity, people are going to abuse things.
Yeah,
same thing
and
with
if it's not policed, you got to police it.
Yeah, same thing with the social services. Like when I grew up, you talked about food stamps and stuff like that. Like I grew up, my mother was working 2 jobs, and she was on food stamps. And, it sucked growing up as a kid, you don't want to be that kid standing in the grocery store and your mom's like whipping out the food stamp, like back then it was like a little booklet they would give you. And like they'd peel that off for like, okay, here's for the bread and the meat and the cheese and stuff like that. And like, here's all the other stuff that I can't buy on food stamps. I'll pay for that with my cash. And like, I grew up in that system, and that helped me get out of that system was, like my mom got a better job, and she used those different, opportunities and those different, services and stuff that was, set out forth by the government to be able to help supplement our income and supplement our life to make sure that we didn't go hungry. And
that's why they're there.
That's why they're there.
That's why they're there.
Use that system when you need to, but like, don't take advantage of it. Don't have like, it's not like she had a side job where she was bringing in a couple grand a month and then she was getting a free iPhone on top of it and like, free groceries and shit like that. Like, use that systems for what it's intended for, but like, there's no policing of it. It's like, oh, just sign up for it and we're going to send you some cash and we'll give you a free phone and all this other stuff. Like, don't take advantage of the system. Use it for what it's for.
Yeah. Well, the people that want to do away with the system, look at the people they're going to hurt,
Yeah.
They're not thinking about, all they're thinking about is the freeloaders that are on it that shouldn't be on it. And that's all they're focusing on, instead of let's talk about policing and not just eliminating the program. Because if you eliminate the program, think of all the heartache and this, how it would affect people that need it, just like y'all did,
Mm-hmm.
So it's just more of that craziness that I don't understand. It's like why things are like they are. It's like, okay.
There's got to be checks and balances with everything.
Fix.
Yeah. There's got to be checks and balances with everything that you do.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like an easy fix, and I've never understood it, but there again, I've got, I could go on a tangent of a lot of things, but
right.
I'm not, I've experienced, I've experienced a lot of different things in life, and I look at things, like I said, a lot different than I did 10 years ago or 20 years ago. But I've learned, age teaches you a lot. And, if you never get kicked in the teeth and you never have any bad things happen to you, you don't learn anything.
Right.
You never learn anything when everything is good. There's no lesson to be learned when you're just rocking along and life is just,
peachy keen.
Peachy keen, you're just cruising along, but when you start getting kicked in the teeth, that's when you start learning,
Yeah. And that's a lot of time people are afraid of that. People are afraid to fail, and so they never make that initial attempt. It's like when I asked you about, like what's the hardest part about artwork? You said just getting started. Taking that first step and going through. And I think a lot of people get hung up right there because they feel that that's going to be their initial point of failure. And people are afraid of failure. And I had this dude that came in. I took a class with my buddy Ryan Eubank. I went through an educator workshop up in Cleveland, Ohio last year. Actually, I think it was like June, July timeframe. And he had like this guy came in. And the guy, I think it was like one of his advisors or maybe the principal of the school. I can't remember exactly who it was. But he said, like, fear or failure is nothing to be afraid of. Because if you break it down, to fail is nothing more than an acronym. So you think about FAIL, F-A-I-L. It's your first attempt in learning. And we learn so much through failure. People just want to get things right the first time, but you don't understand. Like, if you always get things right the first time, you're never going to take that chance because you're afraid of failure. But if you say, hey, I'm gonna try this. Oh, damn, I screwed up. Okay, what went wrong? Okay, let me fix that. I'll try it again. Oh, damn, I failed again. Okay, what went wrong that time? Okay, I got the last part right, but this part isn't working out for me. Let me try it a third time. Oh, damn, all that worked. Okay, now I'm on to step 2. Step 2 comes around, and you're like, okay, let me put this, oh shit, that didn't work out. What went wrong? What went right? Okay, let me fix that. And then on to step 3. And you just keep repeating that process. Like, don't be afraid to fail. Like, failure is the stepping stones to success. And that's what so many people don't realize is, I don't want to fail. I don't want to get made fun of. I don't want to post that on Instagram. I don't want people to see me, failing. Fail, man. Fail your ass off and learn from it. Because you're never, that failure is going to hurt so bad, you're never going to want to do it again. And you're going to figure out a way to work around that failure the next time around. So fail. Go forth and fail and screw things up and, try it and see what works, see what doesn't work, and remember those lessons. Because it's like we said, like way back earlier in this podcast, it's your life experiences that are going to make you who you are. And nobody's got this path of life figured out.
Nope.
Nobody's got it figured out 100%. And if they do, they're lying to you and then they're full of shit. Right?
Right. Yeah.
Everybody who's been successful at one point in their life, they've failed. I mean, look at Walt Disney. I mean, he's created the world's largest amusement park. They've got one in Florida. They've got one in California. They got one in Paris and Tokyo. That man went bankrupt 7 times. So on record, 7 times that man has publicly failed. How many times do you think he's failed before it went on record?
Right.
Millions, hundreds of millions of times that man has failed, but he's got it right, and he's left a legacy of 4 theme parks across the world.
Yep.
Don't be afraid to fail.
Don't be afraid to fail.
Don't be afraid to screw things up.
Yeah. You gotta be, like my dad, my dad always worked for somebody, he made other people lots of money, in the fab business, and he almost got out there one time on his own, and he was just, he was scared because he had 6 kids, and that'll scare you.
That'll scare the shit out of you.
That'd be, and my oldest brother, he always worked for somebody, and now I look at these different people in my life, and I see, and they didn't do what I did, and they seemed more suited to do what I did by, just getting out there, but they didn't. They had that fear, and I just, the fear factor. I guess I don't have the fear factor,
Mm-hmm.
I was able to quit that paper mill and start my own company, and walk away from a really, really good job,
Yeah.
And people said I was crazy. And like I said, I never looked back. And I think people need to, be able to walk away. I mean, you can't be stupid about it. You gotta give it some thought, and but like you said, you gotta try.
Yeah.
And if you don't try, you'll never know. You'll go to your grave and you'll never know if you could have did it or you couldn't have did it.
Yeah. That's another thing that they taught me in the Marine Corps was the 7 P's to success. And you probably heard this at some point through your career. The 7 P's to success. Proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance.
That's it.
And I mean, you think about that, like break it down Barney style. Like think about what that means. Actually, like plan your work and work your plan. Like one of the things when I took over this podcast, there was a lot of fear involved in that. It's like, what if I fail? What if I get behind the mic and people don't listen to it? And, I get all these DMs that, hey, your show sucks and the other host was better and like, you don't know what you're doing. And, like all this ridicule. And that was like the one thing that was my mental hang up. And then like, there was like this little, voice in the backside of my head. And it's like, hey, what if you don't fail? What if you do some good along the way? What if you help out others? And that was like, that dim little light in the back of my mind saying, hey, what if you help somebody else? What if you inspire somebody else to get into welding? What if you inspire somebody else to do better with their life? Right. That light slowly just increased in lumens, and it outshined that light of saying, hey, what if you fail? What if you suck? And what if you get DMs and people say you're no good? You've got to take that leap. What if you fail? But what if you succeed? What if you do better?
Oh,
and that's the thing. You gotta weigh that out. And by proper prior planning of things, you prevent that piss poor performance.
Yeah. I mean, you're gonna have pitfalls. You're gonna have bumps in the road. But you got to be able to pull yourself up and get past it. And a lot of people see they start out down the path and they hit that first little bump and then they're off. That's it. They don't. You got to persevere.
Yeah.
You got to keep pushing. Now I met a couple professional people that wanted to be artists, and they were good money. They both made good money, and they were professionals. Decided they were going to do art, and they started doing it, and they sucked at it. And what they were trying to do didn't make any sense at all. But they pushed it and pushed it and pushed it. And last time I talked to them, they'd filed bankruptcy. They pushed it that far. I think there comes a point when, it's not that you give up your dream, you just maybe redirect your dream a little bit. It's like, well, this is definitely not working. So like you was talking about tweaking it, tweak it a little bit, but you can't just run into the wall,
Yeah.
so to speak.
So you got to constantly, readjust for fire, man. What's working, what's not. But if you keep doing, if you don't perform that self-evaluation of, hey, what's not working? Yeah, you're going to run full bore right into the wall.
Yeah, you're going to hit the wall, and it's not going to be pretty, when you hit the wall. And like I said, there's things in life, just like, losing Blake. I mean, that was something blindsided me. You're going to get blindsided by things, And what they say about things, it's not what happens to you, it's how you react to the things that happen to you. It shows what kind of character you have. You have to, if you think about old poor me, you're not going to go very far. You know, all you got to do is look around. I don't care how bad you got it. There's somebody that got it worse. They're out there. If you open your eyes, you'll see like, wow, I just thought I had it bad.
Yeah. That's
like you said, you're you're reaching out, you got a captive audience. You're reaching out and you get to, talk to people and, pull things from people and other people get to hear what, other people have to say. Cause, of course, like with the internet now, it's, a lot of people that don't need a platform have a platform.
Yeah.
And that's the bad side of technology. Like when the founding fathers wrote freedom of speech.
Yeah, they didn't think Twitter was going to be around.
They never dreamed of what we or when they wrote that, like, second a right to bear arms, well, that was a musket, and it wasn't an AK-47 where you could walk in with 100 rounds,
Right.
So so there again, we could go down that rabbit hole about, how crazy, why don't we change, the Constitution could be changed, it doesn't just cause, a lot of things don't make any sense to me, but all in all, I try to look at, I'm a one day at a time. I try to live one day at a time and do what I can today. Family and friends is really all that matters, in the big scheme of things.
Yeah.
Everything else is, it really doesn't matter. You got to pay your bills, you got to make enough money to pay your bills because that's just part of life. Unless you're back to the caveman days. I don't think they had any mortgage on the cave,
It's a possibility.
I don't know.
It's like,
unless they had they might have had a cave mogul, whatever that word is. The dude, that owned all the caves. They rented them out or something,
Yeah, that's just like part of being an adult, like be a good person, pay your taxes, and don't do meth. Life's really that simple, at the end of the day, when you think about it, like just be a good person, pay your taxes, don't do meth, and you're going to do fine in this world. But I do like I want to harken back to what you're talking about, like your problems and other people's problems. And like, there was, I can't remember who said it, but they were like, if everybody here in this group took all your problems and, just set them right down there on the floor, put it there in front of God and everybody, and you started seeing, like some of the other people unpacking what their problems are, you'd pick your shit up and no problem, and you'd be like, you know what, I'm good. I really don't have any problems, because I thought I had some things going on in this world that, were like weighing me down, but you know what, after seeing this dude's stuff, I'm good. I'm just going to take my stuff. I'm going to be over here. I'm going to be content, and I'm going to push through it. Because I couldn't imagine dealing with that, with what that other person on the other side of that circle had. It's the same way I look at it when I'm driving, and it's like, man, that guy's an asshole. Like, how could he do that? And it's like, I don't know where he's going. I don't know what he's been through. I don't know the type of day he's had. He could be like running home because one of his family members hurt. You know what? I'm going to ease on over here to the right-hand lane, and I'm just let you carry on about your day, dude. Because I have no idea what problems you're carrying. And I think that's what a lot of people miss is they don't understand, they've got it pretty decent, and they don't understand how bad others have it. And they're quick to judge, off just off of instinct. Like,
you got to get out of your bubble, man.
Yeah.
You got to get out of your bubble. If you're in that bubble, like I said, get out of the bubble and look around,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's easy to stay in the bubble. I'm in the bubble, and, I'm just in my little bubble, and I'm heck with everybody else, Get out of the bubble and look around, and it'll help you see, what's really going on out there.
Right. Frank, man, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I really enjoyed our entire conversation. But before we get out of here, why don't you plug your website, your different social medias? How can people contact you if they want to commission you to build a piece or anything like that?
I'm easy to find. Websites, frankledbetter.com, and Frank Ledbetter Metal Art. That's Facebook and Instagram, and my address is 3420 Fowl River Road in Theodore, Alabama, zip code 36582. I have a gallery that's full of art, and you can buy it off. You can message me for pricing if or availability. I try to post everything, online. If you see something you like, or if you see something that I've done, and you think you might want something similar, I'll be glad to work with you on commission, So I'm here, man. Let's do it.
Nice. I'm going to have to come check you out whenever I head up to Kentucky. But no, definitely, if you guys already haven't done so, go ahead, check out Metal Shop Masters. You can see Frank. You can see his work. Go ahead and give him a follow on Instagram and Facebook, and definitely check out his website. Well, Frank, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show, man. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to come on here, talk to us, kind of share your experience. I had an awesome time talking to you, and I really appreciate it.
Hey, man, I really appreciate you having me. It was a great opportunity for me, and, I can't thank you enough for giving me this opportunity.
Thanks, man.
All right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is all I have for you this week. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to visit the all-new ARC Junkies website, arc-junkies.podsite.io, to stream all your favorite ARC Junkies episodes. Check out great deals from all of our sponsors, and pick up ARC Junkies merchandise. I hope you all have an awesome, safe, and productive week out there, and until next time, make every weld better than your last.